Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fourth Page Podcast. I'm Danny Jones of Singing News Magazine, Singing News TV, Singing News Radio, and we are glad that you are here today. My guest, Griggs, of a group that is catching a lot of attention lately, Endless Highway. Allie, we're glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
So, what's going on with Endless Highway?
Well, we recently came out with an album back before summer. That's probably the newest music stuff that's come out. We just got through it in QC, and that was really great. We've been touring with Mark Lowry a lot here recently. I think we've got maybe 5 or 6 more with him in the next few months, so that's really exciting.
So how did the tour with Mark Lowry, how did that come about?
We met his manager at NQC, I believe, and he was really interested in our group and was just really nice and complimentary of what we were doing, and we were like, okay, this is a nice guy. And then a few months or so later, I think, he's like, hey, let's put you on a Zoom call with Mark on his one of his lives or something like that. And we were like, okay. And so we got together in the house and played a song or two on his live stream and stuff, and got our name out there. And then he wanted to meet up with us for dinner next time he was in Nashville. So we went and hung out, and we ate. I can't remember what we ate. And then we just talked for about 2 or 3 hours, and we just kind of hit it off and talked about music. Gaither, his song "Mary Did You Know" was very instrumental in my brother's salvation experience.
Really?
So we got to tell him that story, and that was really cool. It was kind of a full circle moment. And then a few weeks later, he's like, "Hey, let's talk about y'all coming with us and doing some stuff, and y'all play, and he'll come up and sing a few, and we can get y'all's name out there, and you can be out for more people." So it was just really, really cool.
And it's working. A lot of people are discovering Endless Highway. Endless Highway, not necessarily a new group in gospel music.
No.
But there's been a name change. Before
Yes.
Endless Highway, it was.
The Joylanders.
Right. And you told me that was probably your favorite name of the group.
It was. I wish we hadn't changed it.
A little bit of sarcasm there, I think.
No, I'm not hating on it. My grandparents started this ministry back in 1971, and it was with them and another couple. And it's just kind of evolved over the years, and they had children, and their children's children sang, and their husbands, and it's been the way it is now for about 10 years. And then we did the name shift because we were finding that our name didn't represent what we are. And we would have like music ministers or people trying to book us say, well, I didn't really think much about y'all because it just kind of sounded like maybe a quartet or something like that. And that was not what we were. Nothing against that, but it's just
Not you.
false advertising, really. So we were like, okay, if this name is what's kind of standing in the way of that, let's change it. Let's put something a little bit more current and maybe not as gospel-y sounding. That sounds bad to say, but we're still gospel, but it's just something that maybe catches the ear a little bit differently. So we did that probably, I want to say 2017, something like that. And it's been, I'm not saying the name was all of it, but it's been a good change for us.
Well, Endless Highway sticks out in your mind. It's quick to bring an image. So how did that name, how was it arrived at?
What most people don't know is there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through before you can pick a name. You have to see if it's taken on like websites and iTunes, all that stuff. You try to get something that someone else hasn't already had. And we didn't really want to go with our last names because we didn't know how the group would evolve at some point. If it were me and, whatever, if my last name were to change, we wanted it to be something that would be able to remain the same. And Dad would always get his phone out, and on his Apple Music, the first artist was Alison Krauss. And one of her songs was Endless Highway on her first album. And so that kind of sparked an idea of like, what do you think about the name Endless Highway? And so that's the honest answer. And then we kind of tried to find some biblical correlation with it. And so there's a verse in Isaiah that we kind of put with that too.
Today, Endless Highway is you, your brother, your dad, and your mom. Very much a family affair.
Yes.
And there are a lot of live elements to an Endless Highway presentation. Walk us through that just a little bit.
Well, we start with tracks most of the time, and we'll do a couple big ballads and happy upbeat songs and stuff like that, and then we try to shift to acoustic style. I don't really like to label it country or bluegrass because we kind of do both. And that looks like mom playing banjo or fiddle or mandolin. I'll play guitar or mandolin. And then Jay and Dad are primarily, Jay's on the bass and then Dad's on acoustic guitar and different variations of that.
So there's a little bit of mixture going on
Yes.
there. With all of that going on stage, obviously your mom has been a big influence in your professional life. Many people will remember her from her days with the Lesters.
Yes, yes.
Outside of your parents, who has been your musical influence?
Well, I can honestly say that most of my musical ability with playing instruments really has come from my mom and my dad because my mom owned a music store for most of my life. She recently sold it about, I think it was 4 years ago. So I was a homeschooled kid, and so every day me and Jay would just drive up to the music store and sit, and I'd work the cash register or take inventory of guitar picks, and it would take 3 hours, or you'd retune guitars and restring stuff. And so I got to meet a lot of people and watch all kinds of different musicians come in and play and just watch, and they would spark ideas, and then I'd go get on YouTube and watch all that. But vocally, I've always looked up to, in the gospel kind of circle, was always the Martins and the Roops. I always loved them, Judy and Joyce, and then all the Roop sisters and their mom.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to that all the time growing up. That's all Mom and Dad played, just gospel music most of the time. And then secular-wise, my mom named me after Alison Krauss,
Really?
which I really didn't find her music until I was probably 15 or 16. And then I just fell in love with her. And what's funny is I was named after Alison Krauss, and my middle name's Riley. I was named after Tim Riley because he was my father's favorite vocalist, and that's how you know your parents are SG people, when you're named after Tim Riley.
Wow. I can honestly tell you that that's the first time anybody has told us that they were named after two Southern gospel people like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Alison Krauss, Tim Riley.
Right. And Alison's not really Southern gospel,
Right.
but she's recorded a lot of gospel music.
Yeah.
But so you're named after Tim Riley too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll
I
move
don't
on.
think I've ever met him either.
You haven't.
Wait, I might have. I don't remember if I did.
Well, we need to make that happen. Somehow we will. So if I were to ask you, who is Allie Griggs, how would you respond?
Oh, I don't like that question. That makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
All right.
Self introspection. Who is Allie Griggs? She's simple for the most part. She doesn't do all kinds. Sorry, my chair.
Our last guest broke it. I'm not naming names, but it was Lauren Talley. Okay.
I love music. I love being active. I love Jesus, and I love my family. Those are the 4 fundamental things in my life, and usually those 4 things keep me very busy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm in a really sweet spot right now. Most of my life has been traveling 3 to 4 days a week with my immediate close family, singing about Jesus, meeting people all the time. And so that's all I know.
Can you even fathom doing something else?
If God opens the door, I would have to, and I would love it. But when we were shut down for so long, I told Jay, my brother, and numerous close friends that know what I do, like intimately, like they know how tiring it is sometimes. But I was just like, what do I do? It's like, what do I do? It's just crazy. So much of my identity is found in going and meeting and singing and trying to connect with people. And it's crazy that was just taken.
There's not much demand for inventory counters of guitar picks.
There's not. And I would pass on that.
Wow.
I did it long enough.
Long enough. So Trenton, Tennessee is home for the group and your family, obviously. Tell us about Trenton.
Well, you've got a few fast food restaurants. They're basically known for their teapots, largest collection of teapots, and you have to go 31 miles an hour through town.
31.
31.
Okay.
That's what Trenton's about. And my childhood wasn't like most kids that just grew up in their hometown and stayed around there. I was always gone, but my grandparents and my family live on the same road, so that road is home to me. Trenton's not really home. It's just that one road, and I know when I top that hill and I see my grandparents' house, I see my house.
You're home.
I'm home.
You think you'll stay there your whole life?
I don't know. I've thought about the Nashville life. It's not off the table. If the door of opportunity opens, I'm fine with that.
Of course, Trenton's not that far from Nashville.
No, it's only a couple hours, 2.5 maybe. And I like the idea of it. If I had to stay there and not sing, I would probably move.
Mm.
It's just a little slow, but
Does it have a little bit of a Mayberry feel to it, maybe?
yeah,
okay.
a little bit maybe.
Okay. So, Endless Highway has had an incredible couple years. A lot of attention in radio, a lot of attention from audiences. Of course, we talked about the Mark Lowry dates that you're doing. But a lot of people are still discovering the group. When someone comes to an Endless Highway concert or church service, what can they expect?
Hopefully a connection of some sort, because the way we try to present our music isn't we're this Southern gospel group that has these big produced tracks and all this stuff, and we're not musicians that play this acoustic music with this bluegrass twang, and we're not these vocalists that do a cappella. This is only a tool to somehow show you Jesus, show that somebody loves you and that you're not alone. So hopefully that's the number one. But also you'll get tracks, fun upbeat music, you'll get acoustic, you'll get hopefully some laughs. And if you don't like something, just wait a couple minutes or a couple songs and maybe
Something else is coming.
something else will come around. So it's kind of like our own little variety show, but we're not in Branson or Gatlinburg. We just travel.
So when people are listening on the radio and they're listening for the music of Endless Highway, what songs do they need to be on the lookout for?
Right now, it's Every Valley Has a Promise.
Great song.
That's our latest single. And then before that was He Rescued Me, which was an honor to sing that song. And we found that that has opened a lot of doors and has really touched a lot of people's lives. And so we're really grateful for that song. And I think the next one after Every Valley Has a Promise will be Come Home Kind of God, which was actually written by Lee Black and Scotty Inman and Joseph Habedank.
3 decent writers.
Yeah. And what's cool is if you really listen, you can hear a little bit of all of them, because like that triumphant syncopation in there, or certain phrasings the way they do, and then just lyrically, you can tell who wrote it.
Do you write songs?
I want to. It's something that I'm kind of somebody that if I know I'm not going to be great at it, I kind of just steer away from it. Not saying I'm great at everything. That sounded wrong.
I understand what you're trying to say.
I don't want to approach it knowing I'm going to be bad at it, and that's not great on me, because I need to step out of my comfort zone and be willing to not do good. But I want to. I want to be in that.
Well, the reason why I asked that question, you're articulate, and even though you're young, you're seasoned, and that's coming from all the years on stage and everything. There's something that tells me you can write songs. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a hunch, whatever. But there's a songwriter in you somewhere. So somewhere down the road, when we see a song written by Allie Griggs, just remember I said it. Just
this one, Danny gets a royalty from every.
Well, we'll take all 23 cents of that. Royalties, that's a tough
That's
issue.
a whole other conversation.
It is. So,
but thank you.
what does Allie like to do in her off time?
I enjoy going to the gym. I really do. I like lifting weights. I like being active. I like being outside. I found a love for hammocking because it forces me not to do anything. And I'm somebody, well, my mama might disagree because I probably don't do as much laundry as she wants me to do. But I can't sit still. If I've got an off day, I want to plan it of what I'm not going to do or what I am going to do. And so when I'm home, I like to work out. I do a little personal training on the side, kind of. And so that keeps me busy when I'm home. And then hammocking, you just lay. You just pick 2 trees, hang it up, and just sit there.
unless you fall out, which that would happen to me.
I don't know.
I don't know. I've got just enough klutz in me.
Oh, okay.
It would be dangerous.
So you're clumsy?
Uh, that and klutzy, but it's a
Okay.
unique combination. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time
Okay.
without issues.
That's
So,
another thing you can expect at an Endless Highway concert. My father will trip at some point.
really.
On his own feet, if nothing else.
We're telling family secrets here, I believe. This could get interesting. So, all right. So, Allie, you're 25 years down the road from now. What do you hope you can say 25 years from now?
That someone can say that she loved Jesus and that she did what she could for him and she lived in his will and his way for her life, and hopefully I can do some cool stuff and sing some cool songs and just make connections with people, and just that's what I really enjoy, is like this type of stuff, like getting to know you and everything about you, what you love, what you hate. Just
There's a question that we used to ask in a lot of interviews that were in the magazine or perhaps on the radio. That's, if we went to your car right now and punched your CD player, what CD would we find? And now, with so many cars not having CD players, we don't know how to ask that question. So, if I went into the musical collection of Allie Griggs, what could I expect to find?
Well, I'm going to actually go back to the question you originally asked. This one's funny. I keep an Endless Highway CD in my car in the CD player. Not to play it. I never play it. But it's other artists may understand this, but if you're out and you've just released a project and you see somebody that knows you or whatever, hey, you got that new CD on you? I go to my car and get it, which is probably not a good sign that I still have it. But it's just sitting in there. It doesn't play. So the first answer is Endless Highway. But if you were to look at my, I think Apple Music right now, there was, I actually listened to the Martins, Mercy Come In, this morning while I was getting ready, and I had like a little cry, and that was nice. So thank you, Judy Martin, for the cry. And then driving, I was listening to Stevie Wonder, actually.
That is quite a spectrum there.
That's so the way our concerts are is kind of how all of us are individually. Jay has his own weird little thing going on. Dad has his, and then I'm way over here. We all love everything. We love funk, R&B, 80s, classic rock, old country.
If it's music, it's fair game.
We just like quality.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for quality music altogether because, honestly, it is the soundtrack of our lives.
Right.
So, you mentioned that your brother has his own little weird thing going over there. What do you mean by little weird thing going on?
When I say that, it's Jay is lovely. I love Jay. He just, well, he has his own house now, so I don't have to deal with it as much. But when we were living under the same roof, Jay would get fixated on one artist, and he would know everything about them, everything about every single production, and would play it for at least 2 months at a time, if not more. We've gone through a 1.5 year Celine Dion kick. Then it went from that to the Carpenters and knowing everything about Karen. Then it went to the Osmonds. It's a lot.
Well, I've just realized that I'm a lot like your brother because I'll do the same thing.
No, it's not a bad quality.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah. Okay.
I'm backtracking now.
No.
But no, that's the way he is. He'll find somebody, dive in, and stick with it for a while, and then he'll move to another one.
So things really began to click for Endless Highway as a group when the association with Crossroads began.
Yeah.
How have those folks over there, which is Greg Bentley, Jeff Collins, Chris White, all the entire staff over there, what have they poured into the group to help propel you to the forefront?
Well, I think, we're so far away, so we can't see the day-to-day that they do, but they've done so much for us with radio and just suggesting us to people because their suggestions are so much to us because they're so well known in the industry and they're respected. And so by them saying, hey, you need to do or have Endless Highway on this event or listen to this or do that, that does more than you could think about or more than you realize. I mean, but when we went over there, we didn't even go with intentions of signing or anything. Dad and Mom had gotten to a place where we had gotten mid-teens, older teens, and they were like, okay, they sound a little bit more like adults now. We're going to try to invest into a more professional studio project or an album. And so we did that, and then we had known Greg from a previous date we met him at, and then he said, would y'all consider signing? And then it just kind of started from there, and just they've taught us patience because we had no intention of getting into the industry, whatever that really means, but we were just this simple family group from West Tennessee that nobody knew about. We had just been singing for years. And I mean, we were no different than any of those local groups before that. You'd buy your soundtracks, you'd pay the leasing things, and you just record other people's songs. And then it just became more and more with songwriters, and we'd get sent songs, and we were like, okay, this feels like a real thing, you know? And it progressed over each album, and I don't know that I'm really answering your question.
You are. You're doing good.
But yeah, we really made a connection with Chris and Greg, and they've really been great encouragers to us.
Yeah, they speak very, very highly of the group, and
I won't badmouth Chris White on the podcast, but he knows my love for him.
Chris is a great guy. He really is. I've known him for years, and the only thing that I can find wrong with Chris is he's just such a big University of Tennessee fan. Other than that, he's okay. Are you?
Go Gators.
A new twist has arrived.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay,
I don't know anything.
Okay, well, was that just the first name that popped in your head? Okay, that's fair enough. So, Allie Griggs is a musician. She is a singer. She is a future songwriter.
Yes.
That's going
Are
to
we
happen.
claiming that?
We're going to claim that.
Okay.
What else do you want to add to that resume?
A friend. Just a good friend.
I think that is what the world is looking for right now. They're looking for that friendship that in everything. You know, the songs that point to a relationship with Christ. They're looking for that comfort zone with everyone they meet. As an artist, especially in gospel music, there is a certain, I don't know if pressure is the right word or obligation is the right word, but there's a certain responsibility to provide leadership, to provide guidance. Where do you see yourself fitting into that role?
I've had a hard time finding that line between I have my own identity and my own struggles and my own shortcomings, and then also this, you're called to be this, to be that example. And it's a hard load to carry if you have an unhealthy view of what that is. But all I can say is I go through some of the same stuff that you do and have done some of the same stupid stuff you've done. I'm not exempt from anything. And if I can show someone that I'm just as real, just as a messed up sinner as they are, I mean, we all are. I just have Jesus. I have the hope. I have the peace. And the love that I can show you is only Christ in me. So if I can show somebody that and still, the way you worded it was just leadership or a certain, it's a hard balance to find. And I'm still working on that, but
you're getting there.
I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there.
Our guest today on the Fourth Page podcast is Allie Griggs of Endless Highway. Don't go anywhere. More is on the way. Welcome back to the Fourth Page podcast. I'm Danny Jones. My guest today, Allie Griggs of Endless Highway. Let's go back to the memory bank. The very first recollection that you have of singing on stage.
I don't know that this was my very first one, but it was one of the first. I was 4 or 5, pretty young. And we were singing Close to Home, and we were actually with the Isaacs. We were kind of just I don't know if it was an opener situation or we did a few songs in the middle or something, but we were there and they were there, and this was right when they had Becky's husband. What's his name?
John.
John. They had John and their fiddle player. So they had released the Heroes album. It was just a great time for the Isaacs. Sorry, that was a little Isaacs plug. Got up and I did my little solo song. Well, I Am a Promise. Some people may know that song. And right in the middle of it, I'm looking at this church. It probably seats 250, something like that. Maybe 3. I don't know. Full. All eyes are on me. Lights are down. I'm scared to death. This seems like a really big deal to little 4-year-old Allie. And in between lines, I hiccuped. So right after, and then it hit, and everybody busted out laughing. Just probably thinking it was cute, precious. Everybody was laughing at me, scared me to death, traumatized me forever. I immediately put my mic down, started sobbing, and turned around, and my mother held me, and then I just walked off, and it was a great time.
It was a great time.
It was a great time for me.
So
luckily, I kept singing. So.
Okay, that's true. A lot of conversations I've had with artists lately, for some reason, has brought up stage fright, and in some regards, simply because of the pandemic, a lot of people were off the road, and they got out of practice, however you want to phrase it, and it had a chance for those uneasy moments to redevelop. Are you one of those artists who has stage fright, or have you come past that?
Yes and no. Usually it's not the amount of people, it's who is there that really affect me. So like at NQC, I felt not pressured, but I felt like there were some eyes on me of well-respected people, like that I've grown up listening to, who I value their opinions, and you want to do good. So sometimes when there are certain people that I know are watching, I'll get a little nervous, but for the most part, it's softened a little bit as I've gotten older with the bigger crowds.
Mm-hmm. And of course, part of that has come from your heritage. As we alluded to earlier, Mom spent several years with the Lesters,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, you have a very healthy respect for family groups.
Oh yeah.
Who would you put in your list of, okay, these are my favorite families of gospel music? Who really gets in your mind and stays there? Well,
my brother's I have to do this for Jay. The Hoppers have always been played in my house, especially by Jay. So the Hoppers have always been around. I grew up, which it was way before my time, but I still had the CDs. I listened to Come Fly with the Magrooters nonstop when I found out what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think I was 16, and I just got my license, and I had this little mixtape of those songs on it. Did not leave my car for probably 6 months. And I was just obsessed, and you'd rewind and go to a certain guitar lick or a certain bass lick or a certain fill, and you'd like, okay, there you go, and then...
So, were you listening to the singers or to the band?
Before I became a musician, singers, and then after I started playing more, a new appreciation for instrumentation came along. So now it's both, but it was singing and then playing.
Okay. So the Magrooters and the Hoppers.
I mean, the Roops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a family group.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. The Tallies. We did listen to the Tallies a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Total Praise. What was that other song on that one album? I think they were sitting on a staircase, something like that. But those would always be in rotation.
Mm-hmm. So, if I were to ask you the song that has meant to you the most in your life, what song would that be?
Partially, I think I have two answers.
Okay.
And it's going to sound bad because I sing one of them. But before I sang it, my mother sang it. He Rescued Me. She sang that song back in the 90s. And I remember getting in my grandparents' car, and they still had a tape player in it. And it was a tape that they had recorded back in the 90s. I wasn't even alive yet. And I put it in, and I was just obsessed with He Rescued Me. And little did I know, probably 15 years later, I'd be singing it. So that one has a really special place because it's always been there. And then recently, I've always loved the song "I'm Gonna Make It" by Sisters. I guess I heard that first when I was probably 10 or 12 on a Oak Tree Live something with Mark Lowry, and I just remember watching it and just crying my eyes out. And I'll go, it'll come on shuffle on my phone, and I'll still just cry when I hear it. And it's just a great song.
It is.
So good.
So, changing gears on you,
Okay.
your dream car.
Oh gosh, it changes. And I'm not really. I don't care. Like, you give me something that runs. Let's go. Let's go. I really don't care. I'd like to. What was that one the other day? Lincoln came out with something recently that just looks sleek to me. It's not the big one. It's the smaller one. Yeah.
Well, that helps somewhat.
It's like the small SUV. I don't know the name of it.
Okay.
That one. That was a terrible answer.
Well, where do we go from here? No.
Home. I'm just kidding.
No. So, like, I'll have to. It's not big, but it's not little. I guess
it's not the big one, but the smaller one.
This may be why you don't sell cars.
Oh, no, yeah, no. I don't sell anything. I'll be like, you shouldn't buy that.
So, in addition to what you do on stage with Endless Highway, what else do you do with the group?
I clean the bus really well.
Well, that's important.
Yeah.
Are you OCD?
Selective.
All right, define that.
It hits me in moods. Some days I will step through the door and need to clean everything. And then it'll go a week or so and it'll just be a little sloppy. But there'll be this 2 or 3 drawers that are organized perfectly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's just here and there.
Selective OCD.
Yeah.
We may have created a new medical term here.
Yes.
Okay. All right, our guest today, and with that, you remember that next time you see Endless Highway. That's the girl. That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know if it's a big car or a little car, but that's the one. Our guest today has been Allie Griggs of Endless Highway. I promise you, folks, if you have the opportunity to see this group, you need to go see them. In the meantime, we want you to be watching for more of the Fourth Page podcast. It'll be right here on Singing News TV. We'll see you soon. That was great.
That was awful.
No.
It's not the... In my brain, that was enough. That was enough description for you.
But you know what happens here? That 1 10-second response, that's going to endear you to people. I promise you.
Okay, whatever you say then.
It will.
Oh.
That was great.